is Daryl Monroe.
And I'm Scott Richards.
And here today we're to talk about one of our core models that we use within business. So I'll let Scott, you kick off and explain it in overview.
Yeah, so this is what we call our S.E.C.S model, or S.E.C.S for short.
Yep.
It just helps us remember. So it's strategy, execution, culture, and structure. And the framework for this is that it goes in a circular fashion. So if an organisation is having a problem with execution, then we go back and have a look at structure. And if structure is an issue, then we go back and have a look at strategy, and the same with culture. So let's just now start with giving a brief definition, an example, and culture. So what about culture?
Well, anybody that we've worked with will tell you that if you actually listen to what the business tells you, that is a high percentage of the issues faced in a business comes back at the core of it to around the culture. So if you have the right culture in place to support the strategy, and you've got the right structure, so the right people in the right jobs, and you do the execution, then your success rate goes up. And we've found that unless culture is part of that equation, you're just living on hope. Your strategy, instead of being defined and clear and everything, is really just a hope it's going to deliver. Yeah.
So the quote that we love, which is bandied around quite a bit by, it's attributed to Peter Drucker, is culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yes.
And I don't know how many times we've been in organisations and employees have said to us, like, we've been through so many different CEOs and they've all come up with a different strategy. Why has none of it worked? And we believe and we know that it always comes back to the culture of the organisation.
You might remember in a previous series, but if not, please go and have a look. In our previous series when we talked about our laser model, where we do the look, listen, learn, that's the L and the laser. This is where we really get a good temperature gauge, if you like, about an organisation. What's the opportunity for success? Through understanding and listening to people and assessing that culture.
Yeah. So the next one is strategy, and strategy is all about growth.
Yeah.
It's growing your organisation. It's not only just having a strategic plan, but it's having what is the strategy for growth, and it's your customer value. It's all that thing about what you need to do to grow your organisation.
And the core of it is, the core of it is really the position that you want your company to be in. How do you want to be viewed out there in the world, and why would someone come to your company? And it's entirely because that resonates. Whatever you're telling them it is, whether it's a better value, you stand behind your products, or whatever it is, the core of your message is what people are attracted to.
Yeah. And our motto when it comes to strategy is that a poor strategy that is executed well is disastrous for the organisation.
Yep.
So structured. When we talk about structure, we're talking about a couple of things, and the first thing is people. So when we're talking about people, what are we talking about in structure, Daryl?
Well, you know that thing you've heard the saying about a round peg in a square hole. It's really making sure that you've got the right people in the right job with the right capability to deliver against expectation.
Yeah, exactly.
That's core to it.
And then the next thing is resources, is having the right resources and using the assets or the resources that you've got to deliver the execution, to deliver the strategy, or to be able to execute. And so that's why structure is important. And sometimes it's often overlooked. People go from strategy to execution.
Yes.
And they forget about structure, and a lot of the times they also forget about culture.
How many times have we discovered, Scott, the roadblocks that sit in here? A story we shared with you in an earlier series was around discovering that a key salesperson was actually doing the work of admin role because the administration person had left, and someone had decided it was a smart thing to save the money on that role and have the salesperson pick up some of that admin. And what did we discover? Is through applying our process, we discovered it'd be much more financially viable to replace the admin person and get the salesperson back out.
Yeah.
What was the result? Something like how many percent?
I think it was at least 60%.
Yeah.
Within 3 months.
So that's getting the right people in the right role, having the right structure to support your organisation's objective.
Yeah. So our motto with structure is it's about making it faster, cheaper, and better.
Yes. Yep. So execution, I guess, is, again, we've talked about this in our earlier series quite a bit. Execution is it's the rubber on the road. So having a clarity of vision about what you're actually going to be delivering, being able to use metrics to measure whether you're actually getting there, knowing the specific tasks that have to be done and when. It's all stuff we take for granted, but it's amazing how often it unravels here, isn't it, Scott?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not having those measures in place or that review, as when we talked about in our laser model, not having those things in place to see whether they're executing. So our motto when it comes to execution is a great strategy that is poorly executed is useless.
Yes. And it's interesting if you come back to that earlier story, and as Scott alluded to at the beginning, is it's a circular model. So if execution isn't achieving the desired result, we go back and check whether the structure is there to set it up for success. And in that example I gave of the salesperson, the administration, that was proof that they weren't getting the execution they expected. We went back and discovered that we didn't have the right setup there. We didn't have the admin person freeing up the salesperson to go and capture that 60%.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can have the best culture, still won't get necessarily the right execution, and it's easy to look at the culture and say the culture's not right, but you can't. It's got to be integrated. You've got to look at all things in equal through your lens.
Yeah, we come back to that Dan Pink saying that this day and age we don't need analysis, we need synthesis, and it's getting that synthesis or that's between all the different components.
So what's in it for us if we get all this right?
So what's in it for you is what we call cash flow, or what everyone calls cash flow. It's being able to deliver what the business is all about. It's being able to get the cash flow to be able to service your customers, whether you're in a for-profit or a not-for-profit, you still need cash flow to be able to pay your employees so they can feed their families, to deliver on your why. Cash flow is what enables you to be able to do all those sort of things.
Now, interesting enough, we'll get an explanation from our expert, but we didn't put profit in there. Why didn't we put profit?
Because profit doesn't pay the bills.
No.
Cash flow pays the bills. It's the money in the bank that pays the bills. And there are so many examples of companies that have been making a profit but have gone broke because unfortunately accounting or profit the numbers can be adjusted to suit the organisation.
Yeah. So that's why our model in its entirety, it's an integrated model, and its ultimate aim is to deliver you cash flow.
So that's a summary of our base model, our core model, and within these models we'll have, in each of these elements of the model, we have different other models, and we call them plays, and they fill our playbook. So in strategy, we have a number of different business models, and one example of that is the business model canvas, and we use a different business model depending on where the culture of the organisation is. And some people prefer the business model canvas because they're very visual, where other people prefer a much more structured business model, and that's basically the way that we structure our business.
Yeah. Oh, Scott, I think that's brought that model to life. So thanks very much for that.
Thank you, Darryl.